Hello everyone, I hope you're all having a wonderful day. My name is Atticus Moeckel, and I will be looking at the effects of the Mediterranean diet on obesity. The Mediterranean diet itself is both a dietary pattern and a UNESCO cultural heritage. The Mediterranean Sea, as you can see, is a large body of water that separates Europe, Asia, and Africa. It is surrounded by countries such as Spain, Italy, Greece, Turkey, Egypt, and Morocco, among others. Each of these countries has rich and detailed cultures and cultural practices that go back for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And each area has their own individual foods and flavors that can all be part of the Mediterranean diet. So the Mediterranean diet itself encourages a high consumption of fruits, vegetables, olive oil, fish, and legumes, which include foods such as lentils, beans, and chickpeas, also known as garbanzo beans, as well as unprocessed grains rather than processed grains. A key difference between the two is that an unprocessed grain contains the germ and the bran of a grain. Now, these two parts are normally removed in an unprocessed grain, which allows it to have longer shelf life, but because you are removing part of the food, you are also taking out some of the nutrients and fiber that an unprocessed grain will have. In addition, it is encouraged to have a regular and moderate consumption of cheeses, yogurts, and other dairy products, as well as a moderate intake of wine if that is your particular poison of choice. In addition, it is encouraged to have a low or reduced consumption of any non-fish red meat products, such as pork and beef. And finally, it is very encouraged to avoid processed foods and excessive sweets on this dietary pattern. Because there are so many different cultures based around the Mediterranean Sea that have extensive and rich cultural practices, there are plenty of options for both omnivores and vegetarians alike. I myself am a vegetarian and have found much success in being able to adapt a Mediterranean diet to fit a vegetarian lifestyle. In addition, because there is not as much reliance on dairy products and red meat, the environmental impacts that could be had from the farming of these types of animals, including large amounts of grain and feed, high amounts of methane that are released from the animals themselves, a Mediterranean diet could also be more beneficial for the environment. Obesity is a medical condition that can be commonly defined as an individual having an excess amount of fat and overall weight as compared to their height. Now, there are many different ways to look at the body composition of an individual. However, a commonly used one is body mass index, also known as BMI. This is where you take the weight of an individual and divide it by their height squared. Now, for example, someone who is 5 feet 11 inches tall and weighs 170 pounds will have a lower BMI than an individual who also weighs 170 pounds but is 5 foot 9 inches. Now, rates of obesity have been rising across the United States for decades, and this condition can be caused by several factors, including genetics, the environment that someone grows up in, which includes the availability and quality of food that is accessible to them, as well as stress. Now, the best way to help reduce weight gain and combat obesity is a proper and balanced diet, combined with regular exercise to maintain a sustainable caloric deficit. Something in recent years that could also be exacerbating the epidemic of obesity is the COVID-19 pandemic and lockdowns. This is due to the increase in sedentary lifestyle, stress from everything, and a potential lack in exercise or an increase in alcohol consumption. So in order to look at the Mediterranean diet and its effects on obesity, I chose 3 peer-reviewed studies that each look at a different aspect of the diet and obesity. This first study looks at genetics, and specifically the FTO gene. Now, the FTO gene is a fat mass and obesity associated gene that helps regulate fat cells, also known as adipocytes, as well as maintenance of energy and the metabolic rate of an individual. This study was performed in Italy and was a 4-week dietary intervention that had a control diet, which was a normal diet, and a Mediterranean diet. So in this first study, the TT genotype is what you could call the normal genotype, while the A carriers are those that have a FTO gene that is more susceptible to developing obesity. These are the baseline characteristics between the two groups, and as you can note, they are pretty similar, with those in the A group having a slightly higher BMI, as well as slightly higher circumferences for all metrics, including neck, waist, abdomen, and hip. Now, this table here looks at the effects after 4 weeks of dietary intervention. Now, what is interesting to note is that all of the groups, both TT and A, and both Mediterranean and control for each of those relative genotypes, were able to lose some weight, with the TT genotype and the Mediterranean diet group losing the most. However, something interesting of note is that the circumference difference for all metrics was most positively impacted via negative change in the Mediterranean group for those that were A carriers. The second study here was conducted in Spain and looked at the difference between the Mediterranean diet and another medically prescribed diet, specifically for those who were obese and also affected by non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. This is where the liver of an individual will have an excess amount of fat within the liver cells and begin to impair function of the liver. This study had a control diet that was based off of a diet from the American Heart Association with a 30% energy restriction and 3 to 5 meals a day, whereas the Mediterranean diet group also had a 30% energy restriction, however had 7 meals a day. So this table here looks at 6 months of dietary intervention between both groups. The AHA group is the American Heart Association group, while the FLIO is the Mediterranean diet group. Both groups were effective in losing weight, BMI, waist circumference, total fat mass percentage, as well as visceral adipose tissue. Visceral adipose tissue can also be defined as fat that accumulates around the organs of an individual and is widely regarded as a more dangerous type of fat. In addition, both groups showed improvements in the lipid profiles, or cholesterol and triglycerides, of the individuals, as well as diabetes-related metrics such as fasting glucose, insulin, and the HOMA-IR test, which is a test that looks at the insulin resistance of an individual. So my third and final study looked at children and the prevalence of obesity and overweight children. It was performed in Mexico, and in a national survey, it was found that in 2006, there were 26.8% of children ages 5 to 11 that were overweight and obese, and this went up by 7.6% over 6 years to lead to 34.4% of children ages 5 to 11 being overweight or obese in 2012. Additionally, 90% of these obese adolescents have one aspect of metabolic syndrome. This can include increased abdominal obesity, impaired or different lipid profiles such as triglycerides and cholesterol, high blood pressure, and glucose intolerance, which can lead to the development of diabetes. So now you can see here that after 16 weeks, the Mediterranean style diet group had significantly better performance in a whole host of metrics as compared to the standard diet. the Mediterranean style diet being better in overall weight loss and BMI reduction. Additionally, the Mediterranean style diet group lost fat mass as compared to the standard diet, which gained a slight bit, and the Mediterranean style diet had a higher increase in lean mass as compared to the standard diet. As well, glucose was reduced for the Mediterranean style diet, as well as significant improvements in triglycerides and cholesterol profiles as compared to the standard diet. So in conclusion, the Mediterranean diet has a massive amount of research that has verified the beneficial effects that it has on the overall health and weight maintenance of individuals. The studies that were chosen looked at its effectiveness on individuals who are genetically predisposed towards obesity, the effects on conditions that can be secondary and arise as a result of individuals becoming obese, and its effectiveness in different aged populations. Now, a benefit of this diet is that it is very widely adaptable and has many different tastes and flavors that can be added to it in order to fit your own preferences or restrictions that you may need to follow. An important rule of thumb when thinking about nutritious diets is that you will want to eat a variety of whole and healthy foods while avoiding items that are not as beneficial or overly processed, as well as maintaining a healthy and regular amount of exercise. Now, there is always more research to be done, and everyone should participate. If you yourself are interested in the Mediterranean diet, I encourage you to do your own research as well. Look into foods that may be able to be adapted or fit into the dietary pattern that you enjoy. Finally, I would like to thank you all for listening. These were the scientific papers that I utilized for this project, and I wish everyone a wonderful day. Godspeed and good luck with all of your endeavors.